Hello everyone, my name is Vikas Manral and I am co-founder and director of SolutionBuggy, an online platform that connects small and medium scale enterprises in manufacturing sector with the subject matter experts. I thank you, iMotion Drive and also Mr. Keenan, who have given me an opportunity to talk for this event. The topic that we are going to cover is creating competitive advantage by sourcing from India. The topics that I'm going to cover is, first I'll give my self-introduction, then I'll talk about India, the challenges that it is facing, and why a country or a company should source from India. I'll talk about trends, I'll talk about MSME sector in India, and use of technology as a case study for SolutionBuggy. So this is, I have around 21 years of experience in manufacturing sector. I have worked across functions, operations and project management, business strategy and business development, marketing and sales. Presently, I'm a director and co-founder of SolutionBuggy, as I told you. Past experience I have with big manufacturing companies, starting with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which is one of the biggest public sector under Defense Ministry of India, Larsen and Toubro, an Indian multinational company into construction and manufacturing, Tyco Electronics, the multinational company known for its connectors, wiring harnesses, sensors in particular, SKF, the world leader in bearings manufacturing. I'm an avid writer. I write in newspapers and magazines on supply chain management, different topics related to strategy, different topics related to aerospace and defense sector also. Basically, I'm a mechanical engineer and I have also done masters in business administration from one of the institutes in India. I've done short-term courses both in India and abroad. To start with, I'll talk about India at a glance. So if we see, India is today at a lower middle income level. And when I say lower middle income level, it's growing. It started really at the low end, and now as the growing middle class is increasing, as the number of consumers is also increasing. And that's the reason why India in particular, and India and China and Asia in general, there are a lot of consumers which have been added. And that's the reason why these markets have become big today. It's a developing economy. The rates of growth 7 to 9% are clear manifestation of these developing economies and how these are bringing growth, not just for the nation, but they are the growth drivers for the entire world. India has the third largest economy in terms of PPP, what is purchasing power parity in the world. The top three trade partners are United States, China, and UAE. And top three exported goods are oil, mineral, fuel, precious stones, metals, and of course, industrial machinery that we are going to talk about. The top industries in India are textiles, chemicals, food processing, and steel. But if you see the diagram, which is at the northwest corner of the slide, which talks about the percentile ranks which are calculated using latest available data for all countries within the last 5 years. So 2 or 3 things are very prominent, which means that the exports in India have increased almost more than 90 percentile. The FDI inflows have increased. It's almost at top 5 percentile that we talk about. The GDP growth is moderate. The GDP per capita is also moderate, which is also reflected at the income level, where we say India is a lower middle class. The inflation, which is again in terms of the GDP growth rate, is on a higher side. Unemployment rate is also at moderate level, which means that where we are today, we are seeing a lot of companies interested in sourcing in India. That's the reason why exports are there. It could be through developing a supply chain in India, or themselves investing in India directly or in the form of a joint venture. With this unemployment rate, one more information comes into picture, which means the focus of India becomes, or the government becomes, to reduce this unemployment rate. And this is obvious that that's the reason why there's a focus from the government, and we'll talk about it, about manufacturing sector, because as a thumb rule, every two manufacturing jobs create one service job in the industry. That's the thumb rule that we know about. We talk about economic trends in 22-23. So we are going to have higher economic growth. When I say higher, it is with the world. We'll have a higher inflation, which is also a byproduct of a high economic growth. We will have volatile interest rates. We have seen the choppy markets, and recent developments between Russia and Ukraine are also part of it. The NPA growth in banking, and you know about how this NPA growth has increased and has accentuated during COVID times, because the government had to relax their policies in terms of giving credits, and then of course with the same risk appetite, the government or the nationalized banks were given mandate to give more loan. So that's the reason why we see a lot of leveraged companies here in India. At the same time, we also see that over the last few years it has decreased, the NPAs has decreased, but then it's far way to go till now. So in general, this slides talk about how India is growing and it is going to grow. At the same time, there are small risks associated with it, which the companies who enter India, both in the form of direct investment or developing a supply chain, developing partnerships in India, have to bear in mind. This slide talks about why India is the right destination for sourcing. First of all, and everybody knows about the low cost advantage. So simple turning, say in developed economy, when I say turning, it's turning, machining I'm talking about, will cost much more as compared to a developing nation like India, because the cost itself of labor is quite low as compared to the developed nations. However, one more thing comes into mind, that when we do such analysis, we also have to take care of the coordination costs that are involved, the logistics costs, the taxes involved, and the gestation period to develop that sourcing in India. We talk about global acceptability in geopolitics. So geopolitics, as all of us know, and all the CEOs in the world, they also foresee that geopolitics is going to influence the business in the coming world. So country like India, which is quite neutral, which has got much more acceptability than many countries in the world, across the world, would be much more safer destination to invest in or to develop partnership with. We talk about demographics, and when I say demographics, it means the large young population that India has, quite contrary to some of the developing nations or developed nations which are growing old. So we have people who can work. So if you want to increase the production to 10 times, 20 times, it won't be an issue if we do not consider the capital investment, the infrastructure, but then the workforce will get it. The market growth, as I told you, that the consumer class is increasing, and we see a lot of urbanization happening, a lot of people coming from rural areas to the cities, and that's the reason why there's a lot of focus on mobility. There's a lot of focus on infrastructure, where which are fundamentals of fundamental areas or fundamental growth areas for manufacturing. Then we talk about focus on self-reliance and Atmanirbhar Bharat, where Indian government is giving incentives for people to manufacture in India, where for international companies and also Indian companies, a lot of focus has been given to replace what we are importing right now from outside, especially in the manufacturing sector. The intellectual property is quite safe in India as compared to other organizations. There's a a strong legal process into picture, where companies do follow them, and not just the procedures that we are talking about, but the intention of organization and intention of the country is not to copy something which is being manufactured outside, but develop on their own. And that's the reason why if international companies come to India, they have much more control on the intellectual property, and they can be much assured as compared to some other country. Easier communication. English is a second language for all the Indians. We are quite comfortable speaking in English, and that's the reason why it is much easier to communicate. Raw material availability. So we have and some minerals are very abundantly available. This makes things much more easier for us. Now we are talking about why we are talking about buzzing manufacturing sector in India, and why it is important to establish sourcing in India right now. We see a global outlook. The global outlook is global buyers are looking to diversify from China because of different reasons. It could be COVID emotional backlog. It could be some other reasons which are related to geopolitics. But countries, economies, and also a lot of companies are looking to outsource or diversify their value chain from China to India. Most companies have started digitizing entire supply chains as part of their Industry 4.0, which means that when they are talking about digitizing, they are making it fast, they are making it quick, but also making it global. We talk about a lot of domestic needs. We spoke about India as a market is growing. The auto industry has around $100 billion reeling from lackluster demand and high cost. We have EV segment coming into picture on a rapid rise. We have quality has become the major focus, and it's not just a cost. So people do not want to just uh, outsource somewhere where they can get low cost, but also they are very cautious about quality. We talk about startups, especially in Bangalore, where we are located. It's a hub of startups. There are multiple unicorns that are coming up related to manufacturing here in India. And there's a government policy and support for Make in India, which is now known as Atmanirbhar Bharat also. Most current machine supports upgradation. We are talking about technology. Indian companies have more and more sophisticated technology, sophisticated machines that are being manufactured. And then there's a widespread IT adoption among tier 1 suppliers, quite contrary to what was happening, say, 20 years back or 15 years back. So this slide generally sums up on why this is the right time to source from India, and why there's a buzzing manufacturing sector in India. Now, what are the challenges for sourcing generally people face, and what they should keep in mind? So this is a slide which was shown by one of a big German company, I think around 8 years back, where they were showing the difference between the traffic in Germany and the traffic in India, which clearly shows that processes are much more stronger in developed nations as compared to India. But as you see, things have been changing since that since last 8 to 10 years. And we see a lot of Indian companies also going global. There are a lot of Indian companies in automotive sector, especially in component manufacturing, which supply to almost all the OEMs in the world. So which means that yes, 8 years, 10 years back, this was the case. But then there's a gradual shift from an unsystematic approach or non-process driven approach to much more systematic. So things are not as bad as it used to be 10 years back, but they are, most importantly, they are in the process of change. And these are the other typical challenges that a buyer and supplier has. We talk about credit terms. So it's both related to buyer and seller. Many a times when the buyer has a strong bargaining power in front of the supplier, they'll ask for credit terms, and then the seller has to give some credits, say 60 days, 90 days. And I have seen in some of the cases, might be 3 years back, people, even bigger companies, were forced to give around 180 days of credit period to their customers. So which again keeps in mind, and then in my previous business experiences also. Finance people in the organization of sellers, they directly think or they have a perception that the buyer doesn't take them as a bank, and that's the reason why there's a conflict between buyer and supplier. In fact, I want to just clarify, this slide is more of a buyer supplier seller relationship, which is in general and not specific to geography, Indian geography that I'm talking about. Transparency of order processing and execution. I'll give you an example of a big multinational company, Indian multinational company, which has outsourced a part to a company, I think 20 years back in India, and then it was a critical part, and the person was continuously in contact with the supplier located at some remote place in India, but then when they visited, the situation was quite different of what was communicated on phone. So which means transparency of order processing and execution has to be there. At a real time, the buyer should know where the parts are which they have ordered, what is happening to the parts, what is the status of a particular part. uh, Again, the buyer's expectations sometimes are also very high in terms of lower price and quality, so they want a very good quality or at least a decent quality which will suffice the customer expectation, but then they are not ready to lower the price. The delivery is an issue, so many a times we see that the orders come from the customers with saying that we want the delivery yesterday. So this is a buyer's point of view, where he needs credit terms, where he needs transparency in order, where he needs lowest price, where he needs good quality, and a very short delivery period. Just quite contrary to this, sellers, they do not want frequent changes in design, and which is many times inevitable. They have insufficient and centralized operations many a times when driven by a single manufacturer or single person. It's a family owned business, and it's the business is developed or running around a person, so then it's centralized operation. Order book is primary and execution is secondary. What it means is, many a times buyers, what they say is, the seller's priority is to get the order, and when it comes to execution of the order, the bargaining power of the seller becomes much higher, and they take their own time in executing it. So this is a typical scenario. So now, specifically talking about India, there's certain points that I wanted to highlight, which the companies which are not in India would be interested to know, and would be interested to make a sourcing in India more strategic rather than more operational. The first is identification of clusters. So India has got a lot of clusters. And when I say cluster, a cluster is defined as a geographical concentration, a city, town, few adjacent villages and their adjoining areas of units. It could be a factory, household, but in this case, I'm talking about factory, producing near similar products and facing common opportunities and threat. In a typical cluster, such producers often belong to a traditional community, producing a long established product for generation. So when a company comes to India, they should know where the cluster lies. Just to give you an example, there's a casting cluster in Coimbatore. So you'll see a lot of people who are doing casting in Coimbatore, which is again the southern part of India, Rajkot, which is the western part of India, and Howrah, which is on the eastern part of India. So we have three clusters for casting. We have automotive, good automotive component manufacturing companies in and around Chennai. We have good automotive companies in and around NCR and Pune also. So once a company decides to come, they should be aware of where the cluster lies, because once they approach a cluster kind of approach, what will happen is they'll not just get a single company, but some alternatives of alternative for it, but also a complete supply chain. So if I say that we approach a cluster, so and a production process which will involve, say, a turning, a milling, a coating, a painting and packaging, and some of the processes are not possible at a particular point of time with a particular supplier, then he can outsource it to a nearby supplier. So which means that things would be much more easier to handle if we have a cluster approach. So when somebody enters India, it's very important that we are able to identify the cluster, whether that organization, whether that manufacturer is part of that cluster or not. Uh, one more important thing is about the deeper spend visibility. And when I say deeper spend visibility, it is not about what we are talking about. It is purchase and associated business impact at a granular level. And when I say granular level, it means that we not just see the ticket size of say €1 if we are buying a particular pen of €1, and then we say we have to buy we need a 20% reduction and €0.8 we'll buy it from India. But it is much more complicated. The types of cost, the structure, the tax structure, the gestation periods are completely different. So when we say just purchase of part, it is not just sourcing that we are talking about, or we are not just, it's not just purchasing that we are talking about, it is much more deeper. Categorization of expenses and analysis, identification of areas of focus versus routine activity. So what can be done? What is a routine activity and what is not a strategic, routine activity? For example, if a particular company is moving is making an assembly with 5 parts, so what are the critical parts in it where we need to focus, and what are the critical non-critical parts where what needs to be outsourced? All these has to be kept in mind. Total cost of ownership versus purchase ticket side, and we are seeing a lot of thing and lot of business models being evolved around this, where companies are saying that let us pay you as per how much your component produces life. So if your component is giving a life 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, might be the initial cost that you are paying is high, but then over the years we'll recover that cost on much more than that if the quality of the product is much higher. So we don't nowadays, it's total cost of ownership which is much more important as compared to the purchase ticket size. Use of big data and data analytics, and then it's much more complex when we talk about big data and data analytics. So we can go up to the level of machine capacity, up to the level of mapping different machines to a particular system, having quality systems, quality inspections just online, sitting at a particular off-site requirement. So a lot of big data, and then analyzing that data, predicting that data is also more important. And when we say big data and data analytics, it is also about demand generation, demand prediction, the projections, the accuracy of the projections, scenarios that we make, and all those. What are the other things which are important? So for establishing a good supply chain, engage cross-functional teams. Don't ask just the purchase guys to do the purchase, but involve in the purchase process, in the outsourcing process, your purchase people, production people, engineering people, quality and finance people. Predictive demand and forecasting and pricing models need to be developed. Strong supplier management tool, which means that continuously evaluating the performance of each supplier. And not, when I say performance, is not just performance that I'm talking about in production, but also financial performance, which also talks about how deep the company, how deep rooted the company is, and then if the volatile environment is there, is there a risk with the buyer is carrying with the supplier. A use of technology to enhance productivity, transparency, and efficiency is the key for speed. Speed, and also reducing your capital investment. So if we have a good supply chain, if we are able to develop good supply chain, good suppliers, we can ourselves do not invest, and then look at options, look at more flexibility. So if, just to give you an example, if we, for a prototype, we need 5 people, do we have a supplier who 5 quantity volume, then are there suppliers which are ready to take such kind of order? Or if it's, say, it's suddenly from 5 after the at the production stage it moves to 1 lakh, do we have suppliers who can make that 1 lakh or 100,000 to be more precise components? So this is brief about what factors we should keep in mind to make the sourcing strong. So I spoke about myself. I spoke about what India is doing, why the manufacturing sector is buzzing in India. I spoke about what are the factors which are driving sourcing to India, and why somebody should invest in India, or why somebody should develop partnership in India. And then I've now come to MSME sector in India. When I say MSME sector in India, it's micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. These are enterprises, these are the backbone of our economy, and these are the ones which are growing very fast. Today we have around 2 crore MSMEs in India in manufacturing sector, and it's growing very, very fast. So this is the future of India, and I see a lot of these MSMEs playing a major role, especially in countries like Germany or Italy, to the economy. And then gradually India is also gaining. So it's tier ones, as I told you, there's a lot of difference. Today, if we see the tier ones and the bigger companies in India, they are much more stronger in processes. They are very good in implementation of the technology. Now comes the next stage where we have a very big sector, which is micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. And then these micro, small, and medium scale enterprises are going to become more and more important, and how fast they learn, because their costing structure is good, their flexibility is good, their speed is good. That's why these are the ideal, ideal partners to be developed, especially for a MSME or a not so big organization in Europe. So we have around 6.3 crore MSMEs employing around 111 million. That is 2016 data that we are talking about, and it's the second largest employer after agriculture in India. The employment growth rate is 13.9% over the last 4 years. 28 to 13% of the GDP they contribute, 45% of the total industrial production, 40% of the exports, and 30% of GDP. Value of MSME related products exported during 2017 to 18 is 124 billion. 49 to 51% are in the rural areas, and the remaining are in the urban areas. 31% manufacturing, 36% trading, and 33% of service MSMEs are there. They are spread across all the segments: leather, paper, furniture, rubber, transport, machinery, metal products, chemical, basic metals, and all. The market size information: there are around 2.5 million MSMEs registered in financial year 2020. The MSME growth rate at a cumulative average growth rate of around 18.5%. And if we see, they are spread across all the sectors. There are chemicals, electronics, plastic, packaging, food and beverage, and all kinds of manufacturing industries that we have. But there's a challenge that these are facing. The challenges related to knowledge and exposure, the challenges related to skilled resources, the challenges related to technology and sustainability, and finance. So the opportunity is huge. The 400 billion Indian manufacturing market is responding to global competition by digitizing its entire supply chain, which has proven to improve productivity by 30% and reduce the cost by 10%. SMEs, which are 45% of the value, aren't able to digitize due to lack of vision and reduced costs and vision and resources. Productivity has plateaued down due to manual dependencies for searching suppliers, project implementation, quality assurance, and production visibility. And a successful solution would be a digital platform that bridges the gap between the smaller organizations. And that's where the company SolutionBuggy comes into picture. And I present to you the case study of the company I'm a co-founder of. Its name is SolutionBuggy. Now, we are connecting manufacturing industries with the experts, and that's how we are accelerating manufacturing businesses. So technology is the key to grow, and it has also shown that there's a lot of scope in bringing in efficiency, productivity in manufacturing sector by using of technology. And that's where our solutions lie. So we connect around 8,000 plus experts with the 60,000 companies or prospective entrepreneurs that we have. It is to connect. So if a company has a requirement, we'll connect it to the right person, wherever the geography is. Just to give you an example, if somebody say is located in the eastern part of India, the major city Kolkata, then we can get a a person or expert from that particular area. Or if it is very, very specific, where we have only 3-4 consultants in India for that, then we can find that difficult consultant also. Interface is more about hourly consulting, where people do not they want much more deeper insights to start the project. Then there would be a smaller interaction where there would be early consulting. Then there's a team up program where a proper project could come, and the requirements could range from funding, merger and acquisition, joint ventures, sourcing solutions, and all. We talk about why we are unique, what is our USP. Successfully we have a seasoned team which have successfully exited a startup, so we have good startup experience. We have manufacturing background, and one of our founders is also an SME entrepreneur. So the product is very unique, and demand is, we are trying to develop more and do more demand by digitizing. We are in an area where most of the companies are, or consulting companies, are not there. These are the 3 founders. So the left one, Mr. Arjun N, he is the founder of the company, and he has around 12 to 13 years of experience now in SME manufacturing sector. Yeah, Mr. Guru Prasad, he has around 18 years of experience in international consulting and startup, and this is me, and I've given my background to you. Key advisors, we have very strong advisory network. We have people who have been veterans from the industry and are part of our key advisory board. These people advise us in executing any project. Also, they give us a lot of networking opportunities, a lot of industries, but more often they give the insight at a very, very high level. But somebody who is a more seasoned consultant will go on the field, on the site, and do the business for you. We have been growing very fast, especially during the pandemic, where the use of technology has become almost inevitable. So we have record order books. We had around 3x growth in the projects. We have 4x growth in revenues, and we today are able to do a lot of international projects from Europe, Middle East, and Asia. And the factors why we have got such kind of growth is, we have got an agile business strategy. We have changed the way we used to work before pandemic. We have used the technology to the fullest. We are building a core team. We have a motivated workforce, and a lot of collaborations that we are doing with individuals, with different organizations, and finding new ways of working. And this is some market validation. If we see these leaders from the corporate, not just India, but around the world, India is probably the most competitive country in the world for the automotive industry. Our long-term growth story in India is intact. Since 2008, we have more than doubled our sales in India. I believe that global mega trends, mobility, urbanization, water, and agriculture will be the drivers for the growth. We are looking to use India not just as a source, India as a source, not just to make great parts, but also to make manufacturing equipment that we will use to produce our product in other countries. So this is the validation of what global business leaders say about India. So with this, I would like to sum up saying that if we want to focus on manufacturing in India, it's the focus, it's the priority of the government, and it's the right time to have sourcing partnership in India. And we at SolutionBuggy can very well help you. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about myself or SolutionBuggy, people who are working with SolutionBuggy, but we are talking about our group of 8,000, 10,000 experts who will support you in all the domains, be it supply chain, be it supplier development, be it quality, be it India market entry, be it a joint venture partner, a manufacturing partner in India. We can help you in all the areas. So focus on manufacturing is the key in India for self-reliance, globally competitive cost for engineering and manufacturing that you can get in India, local and customized product development you can make, and as we also know that customization is the key nowadays, and that's how we can capture global growth, not just in terms of building capabilities in India, but also giving a competitive advantage. With this, I would like to finish my presentation, and I thank again to the organizers and to all the people who are hearing me or watching this webinar directly or the recording of it. I'm open to questions. You can directly approach me. My email ID is Vikas, Vikas Manral @solutionbuggy.com, or you can go to our website www.solutionbuggy.com, where you can register yourself and post your requirements. So thank you. Have a good day. Bye.